You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Podcast. I have Karen Rzepecki, the founder of MasonJars.com. So Karen, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell me about Mason Jars. What was the idea that sparked the website and the whole initiative?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm a maker. I make a product for Mason Jars. The brand's called Recap. And in the process of selling it and going to trade shows and meeting people, I felt like there was a gap for makers like me, smaller brands that are really trying to grow. There wasn't really a good marketplace, online marketplace, to do that. It's really expensive and cumbersome going to trade shows to try to get wholesale accounts. And marketplaces like Amazon is just really noisy and easy to get lost. Amazon has over 5 million sellers. Same with all the big marketplaces. So it's really hard for small brands to get noticed. And then I also, when I did trade shows or just reached out to other entrepreneurs, I felt like there was this real collaborative movement of makers and folks of original brands that wanted to work together and leverage each other. And it was really a collaborative experience versus competitive. And so I wanted to tap into that and create a marketplace that could showcase original brands and do it in a way that had a really close connection with consumers.
Okay. So what kind of things are you fostering the marketing of on the site or the display of on the site? Is it just your own products, or is it a whole bunch of small business local brands?
Yeah, it's definitely a marketplace. So it's not just a website for my own brand. It's opened up for other brands. We have about 100 other sellers, either on the site or in the pipeline to be launched. And our hope is to grow it to 2,000 or more original brands. Again, that we allow them that platform for these brands to sell direct to consumer or tap into our wholesale network and sell wholesale. And for customers, what we wanted to do is provide an experience that allowed people to understand how to make something with a product, how to not just go in and shop. Shopping's important. People like to do that, but also tying it to the experience. And so we really have a lot of rich resources that people can use. For example, if they want to learn how to ferment, we have the information there to help them through it. And they can buy the products that go with that experience, or if they have the stuff at home that they can do on their own, that's fine too. So we wanted to create something that we were able to connect consumers, buyers with actual makers so that they can learn and grow.
So what's the theme of all the brands? Is it self-sufficient living, or is it just things in the home, or how would you characterize?
Yeah, self-sufficiency is definitely a theme, but really it's trying to focus in on kitchenware, pantry, and garden. And we feel like we can really make a difference in those areas because it's a symbol of Mason Jars, right? How to make your own food and eat healthy and create things, whether it's for yourself, your home and your family, or giving as gifts. So it's really very much around making small batch, and we focus on the kitchenware, the pantry, and garden. And there's other things too. There's things that would be maybe characterized as decor, and certainly we have some pet things and kids as well. But it's all about that home and garden experience.
Okay. So within home and garden, I guess it would be like growing your own vegetables, fermenting your own foods, maybe gadgets or recipes to make fun desserts that are, diet friendly or low sugar or things like that. I'm just pulling out topics. Are these some of the things that would be highlighted on the site, for instance?
Yeah, exactly. We have this really nice post on making pickles. And so we actually had one of the interns that was working with us, met with his grandma and spent the summer with his grandma learning her special recipe for making pickles. And he shows step by step how to do it, and, shows him picking the actual cucumbers from the garden, gives you the recipe, shows you, what all the ingredients you need, all the products that would help make the experience better. So that's like one example of a lot of people, younger folks might not have learned from their parents or grandparents. They might have some memories of pickles or jams or some specialty foods, but a lot of people haven't taken the time to actually learn the craft, and so we're helping with that process.
So what are you seeing the community likes most or reacts to most?
Well, it's funny because our site is masonjars.com, so a lot of people coming to our site are interested in mason jars in general, and some of the more popular posts are really when we post things that are informative about mason jars. So that gains a lot of traction, and things like I mentioned, that grandma's pickles. And we show specifically how to do different fermentations. Those are really popular. We have an ebook. We try to have a lot of free with purchase ebooks that are, goes into much more depth than maybe the blog post will. And we have a fermentation ebook that's extremely popular that gets a ton of downloads.
Well, in the world of fermentation, for instance, I'll just ask you a few details, like what kinds of things can you ferment, and what are some of the benefits of fermenting your own foods?
Yes, I think there's a huge education around gut health right now. So a lot of people interested in eating healthy, being healthy, have really been learning about their gut biome and how eating different foods help that. And fermented foods is one of them. And there's so many fermented foods out there. Obviously, beer is an example. Chocolate is an example of fermented food. But we do a lot. Yeah, chocolate is a fermented food, and
really?
So is tea. Yeah, tea is fermented. So so there's it's a process that kind of changes the chemistry of the raw food, makes it more easily digestible. And we spent a lot of time talking about how to ferment vegetables because years ago people did a lot of canning, and I think canning, while there still are a lot of people canning, it's a lot of work. And what I love about fermenting is it's a great way to get a variety of vegetables and pack them in the jars, do the fermentation process, and it is extremely easy. The fermented vegetables are delicious, and they're shelf stable. You keep them on the shelf while they're fermenting, so it doesn't take up a lot of refrigerator room or anything. So a lot of people are interested in the vegetables. We have a lot of good recipes. Like one of the more popular ones is a jardinera, where you have the cauliflower and garlic and carrots and peppers. That's a really, really popular mix, as well as the sauerkraut. We have a sauerkraut that's a ginger orange sauerkraut, sauerkraut that is phenomenal. It's actually one of my favorites. It is so delicious, very easy to make. And what's cool about this, putting together a ferment, it's easy. All it does is sit on the counter, and based on however much time you need to create it, could be a week, could be 4 weeks. You have, when you have like people over, you have a really interesting meal, or an addition to a meal that was really easy. And that's one of the things I love about it, is because you can come off as being a really good cook without a lot of effort. And there's other things that are fermented as well. I'm just now getting into miso, which is something I think it's going to become more popular. A lot of people aren't making their own miso. Those have very limited resources in the U.S. And expertise in the U.S. So there's only so many books available. But that's a really fun product to make. And then other fermented items are like kombucha. Kombucha is extremely popular right now. Expensive to buy. You go into the store and buy a bottle of kombucha. It's going to be like $5, definitely $3 to $5. If you make your own, it's significantly cheaper. And all it is it's called a SCOBY. You use this a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, and that's along with the tea. It's a black tea and sugar, and becomes a kombucha. And then there's interesting things you can do with the flavors.
That's very cool. Oh, interesting. So you have people that actually sell the kits to make these products, or at least provide the recipes? Like you interview them for the website, or they'll post, or like how do you interact with the people in the world of whatever you sell?
Yeah, exactly. So for example, I have the product company Recap, and we make kits to help people use for making their own kefir or kombucha or fermentation. But as far as like kefir and kombucha, I don't sell or get involved with the cultures, the SCOBYs that you need to actually start, the starters. And so we have sellers. We have a seller that is doing that. That's their expertise. They sell the kefir cultures or the kombucha cultures, and then they'll sell other products that help the process go easier. So we that's the beauty of a marketplace. We're trying to bring in different original products that help with a certain solution, and working across the makers for these solutions. So that's kind of the point of our focus. And then we can create, and we do have with the videos, and we have ebooks, and we have the blog posts that help you follow along.
So where do you see that things are evolving right now, and where do you want to take the site?
So we actually want to get more involved and deeper into the small batch pantry. So, and I'll bring up miso as an example. That's one where we're going to be reaching out and seeing who's making this miso for sale to others, because it's a somewhat complicated process, because not everybody's going to make it themselves. So maybe somebody wants to make it themselves, but then what's cool about that is grabbing products and trying products from others. Another probably more specific example would be hot sauce, right? Hot sauce is actually pretty easy to make, and that's a fermented process. So you would take the peppers, you put it in a brine, you ferment it for however long, and then you blend it, and you can create some really interesting hot sauces fairly simply. But what's great about like hot sauce, for example, is trying other people's stuff. And so we do have some hot sauces and chilies and so forth on our site, small batch products that people can buy. And that's the beauty of the small batch pantry that we're trying to, where we see our future is really getting all these different local specialties that you're not going to find in a store, they're made with, tender loving care with organic products, probably from their own garden, and just sharing those experiences and different flavors and sharing how it's made. And so people can try to make it themselves or just support other people who are putting the effort into making it.
Interesting. Any new trends coming up? I guess the small batch pantry concept, it can include, all kinds of fermented foods. All kinds of preserved foods. It's a whole world in there. So it makes sense that that's where you're headed.
Right, exactly. Like honey, one of the areas of our focus is honey and maple syrup, because you have, so many small makers, farmers that are creating their own batches. And honey specifically is unique from hive to hive. The properties are unique to that area. And I foresee being able to have a site that people can go to. Let's say, for example, I'm headed to Asheville, North Carolina, which I just happened to do last week. Well, they're in the season where everything's popping, and I have allergies. It'd be great to, within like a month before I go, get some honey from that region and start using it and seeing if that makes a difference to help me acclimate when I go to that region. So there's a lot of benefits with having regional food and trying it even prior to visiting the region.
Well, so do you primarily sell the recipes and the do-it-yourself stuff, or do you do done-for-you, meaning, what if I wanted to stock my pantry with little samples of, the special honey and kombucha and tea, and, do you offer like a package service where I can, buy some of these products, or do I have to make them myself?
Oh, no, right. This is definitely products to buy. We provide resources and help if somebody wants to make it, because we think there's a lot of benefit. But no, these are products to buy, so you don't have to go through all the work.
Do you have people requesting stuff, and then maybe if you get enough requests for something, you can commission someone in your network to go make it and offer it for sale? How do new products come onto your listings or come into your universe? What's the process there?
Yeah, so we actually reach out and find makers through searches, and then they also find us. So we have an application process. It's pretty robust. We get applications every day from makers who want to sell on our site. So it's twofold. People finding us because everybody's always looking for a new outlet to sell, and then us just doing our searches. And we look for quality products. So our marketplace is different from Amazon in another respect, that we have to approve it. So sellers are definitely vetted. We check out their brand, we check out their quality, we make sure that they can fulfill orders, we make sure they're ready. And if they're not, sometimes people contact us and they're not ready. And that's okay. We can help give them some tips on what's needed. Some people are really just new, and maybe they just started with a product and they haven't figured out how to fulfill orders, or they don't even have good photos. And we help them understand, hey, this is what you need to have good product photography. This is this is what you need to create the copy to make this a compelling information. So we help the newbies to get to a place where they can be on the site.
Okay. When you look at the products that Amazon has, or local grocery stores and stuff like that, how is the stuff that you're showcasing different? I know obviously it's not for big brands, but what do you notice is the most striking differences between like the mom and pops or the small brands that sell this stuff versus what the big companies that sell it?
Yeah, the personal touch. They just even the packaging and the notes that you get with the products, and just the amount of attention that they put and love that they put into their product. It's just so obvious. They really care. They care about their the produce selection. Where are they getting it? Is it organic? The other thing that's different with us is you're going to see a face with a brand. This is not some corporate entity that's trying to, fake out some sort of persona to greenwash what they're doing. These are real people that have a story behind their product. They created it for a reason. And like we have some dog care products on our site as well. And, this started, maybe the dog had a problem with its fur, or you took their dogs for walks and their paws kept getting injured. And so they created a paw balm. So there's stories behind why the makers have created their product, and they put a lot of their own personality and care into the products. I think that's the difference. We're very transparent. Anybody selling on our site, they have to tell us where it's made. And it's not like you can't have a product that's made outside the U.S. or China or anywhere. But we're looking for full disclosure, and that's another difference with our site, I believe, in our marketplace than others. We really try to tell the full picture so that people that are conscious consumers can have all the information and make good choices.
Okay, well, very good. So what's the process for people to find out more? They just go to masonjars.com and browse if they want to buy, or look for the application if they want to apply?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Any other interesting things you want to bring up? Like, as you've gone through this journey and created this site and this community, any insights you've gotten that surprised you, or has it led to how you live your life and what you eat and what you do?
Yeah, I've personally so much enjoyed working with the other makers and getting to actually test out their products. That's part of the process. They have to send us samples so that we can review the quality and experience. And what's interesting, there's some things I thought, they contacted us and they're like, oh, I have such a product, and I want to sell it on your site. And we're like, okay, yeah, send it in so we can look it over. And at first I'm like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't seem too interesting. And then once we receive it, it's like, what you touch and feel it, and then you think about all the things that can be done with that product, you get very excited. So it's great to keep very open-minded about the makers and their products, and really seeing where it can go. So that's been really a lot of fun.
All right, very good. Well, again, so people can go to masonjars.com, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you.